Free. In 1948, Britain offered the entire Volkswagen company to Ford for nothing, and Ford's own chairman said it wasn't worth a damn. 80 years later, that rejected factory built the largest car company on earth. 12 brands, 657,000 jobs, protected by a law written for this one company alone.
Volkswagen has promised to pay billions of dollars in fines.
In 2015, Volkswagen paid $33 billion for cheating on emissions tests, and nobody was ever cleanly blamed for it. In July 2026, its own board did something it had never done before. It looked at the CEO's plan to save the company and said no. The same structure that saved Volkswagen in 1945 is now the thing standing in its way. The promise nobody kept. It didn't start with a car. It started with a promise nobody could keep. In 1937, the German Labor Front founded a state-run company with one goal: build an automobile every working family could afford. The design came from Ferdinand Porsche. Adolf Hitler wanted a political weapon disguised as a family car. Workers were told to save 5 Reichsmarks a week into a stamp booklet. Around 336,000 people signed up. Then came the war, and the promise collapsed before a single customer ever got a car. Every Reichsmark those families had saved simply vanished. Allied bombing left the factory in ruins by 1945. What happened next is the part almost nobody outside Germany knows. A British Army major named Ivan Hurst got the wrecked assembly line moving again. Within 3 years, that improvised operation was producing thousands of cars a year, and in 1948, the British government tried to give the whole company away for free to any major automaker willing to take it over. General Motors passed. Ford's chairman reportedly told his own engineers the car wasn't worth a damn. Nobody wanted the company that would go on to outsell every automaker on the planet. The structure that saved it. By the 1960s, the car nobody wanted was everywhere. Under Heinz Nordhoff, the Beetle became the best-selling foreign car in the United States. By 1972, it had passed the Ford Model T's production record, more than 15 million units built. Volkswagen spent the next few decades buying its way into every corner of the market. Audi in 1965, Seat in 1986, Skoda in 1991, Bentley and Lamborghini in 1998, Porsche itself in 2012. By 2016, Volkswagen overtook Toyota to become the best-selling automaker on the planet, delivering more than 10.3 million vehicles that year. None of this happened the way any normal public company operates. Volkswagen is governed by the Volkswagen Law, written in 1960 specifically for this one business. It caps any single shareholder's voting power and gives the state of Lower Saxony a permanent blocking stake of just over 20%. German co-determination rules split Volkswagen's supervisory board evenly between shareholder representatives and labor representatives, giving unions a level of formal power inside the boardroom that exists almost nowhere else among the world's largest companies. For half a century, that structure looked like Volkswagen's greatest strength. It also meant that when something inside Volkswagen went badly wrong, the very structure built to protect everyone made it almost impossible to say clearly who was responsible. The $33 billion question nobody answered. On September 18, 2015, the EPA issued a notice of violation against Volkswagen. Inside nearly 11 million diesel vehicles worldwide, engineers had installed software that could detect when a car was being tested for emissions and switch into a clean mode. On the road, the same cars emitted up to 40 times the legal limit of nitrogen oxide. This wasn't an oversight. It was a specific engineering decision, built deliberately, sold to customers as clean diesel technology that didn't actually exist. Volkswagen ultimately paid more than $33 billion in fines, buybacks, and settlements. CEO Martin Winterkorn resigned within days. Criminal charges followed for several executives, including a U.S. prison sentence for one manager. But investigators spent years trying to answer one simple question: who exactly made this decision? The honest answer was that nobody could fully say. The same governance structure that had protected Volkswagen for decades, the labor board seats, the state ownership stake, the diffusion of power across 12 brands, also diffused accountability. The company paid an enormous financial price. The individuals inside the boardroom that had overseen it largely did not. Volkswagen absorbed the fine, kept building cars, and by 2016 became the best-selling automaker on the planet anyway. The lesson the company seemed to take from its worst crisis wasn't that the structure needed to change. It was that the structure could absorb almost anything. The numbers that couldn't be fined away. By 2025, the company that had absorbed Dieselgate was running into something it couldn't find its way out of. Volkswagen's operating margin collapsed to 2.8% in 2025, territory it hadn't seen since the depths of the diesel scandal. Between 2021 and 2025, its profit margins had more than halved. In the first quarter of 2026, operating profit fell 14.3% to 2.5 billion euros, missing analyst expectations by nearly 1.5 billion euros. Net profit dropped 28% to 1.56 billion euros. In China, once Volkswagen's most profitable market, sales fell roughly 20% in the first quarter of 2026 alone. Domestic Chinese brands like BYD had done in a decade what Volkswagen had spent 70 years building. US tariffs were costing the group an estimated 4 billion euros a year. Volkswagen shares fell to their lowest level in 16 years, trading at a price-to-book ratio of just 0.18, investors valuing the entire company at a fraction of what its factories and equipment were worth on paper. Management's answer was blunt. Executives began drawing up plans to shrink Volkswagen's model lineup by as much as half, cut annual production capacity from roughly 10 million vehicles down to 9 million, and cut up to 100,000 jobs on top of 50,000 cuts already announced, while closing 4 German factories in Hanover, Zwickau, Emden, and Audi's plant in Neckarsulm. CFO Arno Antlitz told staff, plainly, the cost reductions planned so far were not enough, and the company needed to fundamentally transform its business model or put its own future at risk. The boardroom that said no. On July 9, 2026, Volkswagen's supervisory board met in Wolfsburg to consider that plan. Outside, roughly 400 workers demonstrated as part of coordinated protests IG Metall had organized at around 20 Volkswagen sites across Germany that same day. Inside, the math was working against CEO Oliver Blume before he even opened his presentation. The board has 20 seats, split evenly between shareholders and labor. With one capital side seat vacant, labor representatives effectively controlled 10 votes on their own, enough to block anything they opposed. The state of Lower Saxony has a long history of voting alongside labor on exactly these kinds of decisions. The board reached no agreement on the plant closures or the deeper job cuts. Volkswagen's labor representatives blocked it, according to multiple people familiar with the meeting. What came out publicly afterward was a scaled-back announcement. Volkswagen would still have its model lineup and reduce production capacity to around 9 million vehicles a year through 2030. But there was no mention of the 100,000 jobs, no mention of closing Hanover, Zwickau, Emden, or Neckarsulm. Those decisions got pushed into future meetings instead. Daniela Cavallo, the top labor representative on the board, gave Blume an ultimatum: address the workforce directly by July 10th, or face what she called extraordinary worker meetings after the summer break. 2 days later, Volkswagen confirmed its global deliveries had fallen 8.6% year over year in the second quarter of 2026, even as the leadership standoff continued. Who actually pays for the stalemate? Here's what a boardroom deadlock never shows up as in a press release: a person. In Hanover, Zwickau, Emden, and Neckarsulm, tens of thousands of workers spent July 2026 not knowing whether their plant is on a list that management wanted to finalize and the board refused to sign off on. Not saved, not cut. Suspended in a fight neither side was willing to lose. That uncertainty is not a neutral outcome. It is the direct cost of a governance structure built so that no single party, not the CEO, not labor, not the state, can be cleanly blamed for what happens next. The same diffusion of responsibility that let Dieselgate happen without a single name at the top being cleanly tied to it is now the reason nobody can say whether a factory town keeps its largest employer. The executives who signed off on the defeat device a decade ago paid fines and, in a few cases, prison time. The 657,000 people who show up to build the cars are the ones now waiting to find out if Volkswagen's next decade includes their job at all. That is the pattern underneath both crises. When something goes wrong inside Volkswagen, the structure spreads the blame so thin that no one owns it. When something needs to be fixed, that same structure spreads the decision so thin that no one can make it fast enough. What this means if you're buying one: the engineering itself hasn't collapsed. A Golf, an ID.4, an Audi, a Porsche coming off a German assembly line in 2026 is still built to the same exacting standard the brand has spent 90 years earning. If you're buying a Volkswagen Group product for what it is today, on the road right now, that part of the reputation is still largely intact. The bigger question is what happens to the company underneath the badge over the next 5 years. Volkswagen needs to move fast, restructure quickly, and compete with Chinese rivals who can design and ship a new model faster than Volkswagen's board can agree to close a single factory. But the same governance structure that gives German workers a real seat at the table is built for consensus, not speed. Right now, that structure is doing exactly what it was designed to do, slowing everything down. Slow used to be safe. In 2026, slow might be the most dangerous thing a car company can be. Volkswagen isn't going away. The state backing, the union protections, and the sheer scale of the brand mean total collapse isn't the realistic risk here. But if you're watching this as an investor, or as someone whose town's economy runs through one of those 4 factories, the board meeting on July 9th should worry you more than any single quarterly earnings report. A company can survive a scandal. It's much harder to survive a leadership team and a board that can't agree on how to save the same business and the same workers they both claim to be protecting. If you want to see exactly how deep this restructuring goes and which Volkswagen plants and Boardroom models are actually on the list once the board finally does agree, check the link in the description and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this story.